Okay, hello and welcome back, and we are playing When Stars Collide. I'm Justana, and new chapter has been uploaded, obviously, and not just a new chapter, but bonus scenes for chapter 5. So, if anyone else is playing this and you haven't updated, you need to see the 4.2 here to ensure you have the latest update, and in order to unlock the bonus scenes you need to replay through chapter 5. Such a hardship. So we're going to play, whoops, not that. We're going to actually do the bonus scene. Basically you have to do, go down to the planet with each possible love interest in order to unlock the bonus scene. So, as you can see, I already did that. So we're going to play through Cav's bonus scene, and then we'll do chapter 6, and then that'll be it. And obviously the rest I will play off stream. So let's get started. The past tastes like ashes. When you can't let go of the cold, burnt out remnants and husks of events that once felt vivid and sharp enough to make you bleed, just cling to your throat and choke you. And long after the anger cools and the smell of your life going up in flames fades, all that's left is silent remembrance. Gosh, I remember this. This is very drapey and loose, and his hair is braided. Oh my goodness! This is his sprite when you last talked to him. So I'm assuming this is after he walks the main character to the bedroom. And scars. Way too many scars. I lifted a hand, resting my fingers briefly against the brow bone of my left eye. This way. They can't see. Years pass, and still the taste of ashes slips in when you least expect it. When you're working down in the lab and someone says something that brings a past event back into focus. Or when you're staring into the deep, feeling like the void will swallow you whole, and remembering a time that's what you wanted, that faint scent of ash pierces your nose. And the past tries to remind you that it never really left. And then, sometimes, when your friends do stupid shit like drag in a silver box with painfully familiar symbols etched in pale violet and dump it in the cargo hold, so he recognized it! When a stranger with silver eyes crawls her way out of it and inserts herself into everyone's life, when she speaks to everyone in a voice only the others can hear and you can only watch. The smell of those dead embers fills your head, and there's always a stark moment you think you'll completely lose your mind to the sensation before it all fades. The past retreats to memory, and you're left standing there feeling empty and hollowed out all over again. Until the people around you fill that emptiness with their dumb jokes and bickering, and you remember you exist in the present and not whatever history wants to drag you back to it. The past is like that. Ghosts, as a certain someone says, I guess. From the moment Lane arrived, that taste of ash kept tripping me up. I'd lie awake and wonder at the phantom scent still clinging to the corners of my room, and marvel at how one little spark could make me remember things I spent every damn day trying to ignore. For a long time I'd even succeeded, until she showed up, of course. At first I avoided her like that was the answer, so that's why we didn't see him at first. But it's hard to ignore someone in a place where you're constantly tripping over each other, just trying to go about your lives. I couldn't avoid her and was irritated about it, so I tried to provoke her, frustrate her. And her reactions made me want to watch her a little, talk to her a little. At first it was like I was waiting for her to do something I could use to accuse her. Accuse her of what? I wasn't sure. Being a secret warlord? Just being fucking annoying? Who knows? Probably would have been easier to make that argument than her being a warlord, though. She looked like she'd rather have her teeth pulled by a Yanzi dentist than spend even 2 seconds doing anything that required a sense of responsibility. That sounds familiar. Much less that required an acknowledgement of her own heritage. I don't think I've ever seen anyone run from her family history harder or faster than she tried to do it. Doesn't change what she is, of course. You can't run from your DNA. Nope. You can't run from your past. I tried to tell her that, and it just made her mad. I expected that, though. But the problem was that she wasn't what I expected. Not a single conversation I had with her went the way I thought it would. She was more thoughtful, more humble, more open, and also somehow more unsure. And she didn't always get annoyed at the things I expected her to get annoyed at. She had that little tinge of arrogance that would cling to you no matter how hard you tried, just a smidge of knowing she knew more than everyone else. I could forgive that, though. It's not like someone has to be humble. I'm sure as hell not. Nope. But when you come from a background like hers, well, it was a little reassuring to see someone at least try for some humility. The problem was that, well, she was also kind of funny. And charming in an annoying way. I don't even want to try to deconstruct what went through my head every time we talked. But I liked talking to her. How the hell do you stay mad at someone who makes you laugh? Right? Plus, staying mad is exhausting. Someone who surprises you. Someone who hasn't technically done anything wrong, but be born to some people you didn't like all that much anymore. I guess if I was any indication, you didn't stay mad at her. I got a tickle in my nose. It's just that I didn't expect humility from someone with those eyes and saddled with the name Nymera. Troublemaker in the hallowed Villain halls. What does this mean? Interesting. I suppose she wasn't the first Villain to dodge expectations. It's not like all Villains were bad in the first place. No species was that much of a monolith. After all this time, maybe I lost sight of that. Memories build onto themselves until what you recall no longer quite aligns to reality. As for Lane, well, like I said, it's not terrible to be a kind of likable person, except that this time it felt like a problem. For me specifically, of course, not everyone else. Being around them still felt like scooping stale ashes down my throat, then going back to beg for more. Because I wanted to look deeper, see more, to figure out how it all made me feel. How she made me feel. Each time we interacted, it was like trying to dig into my skin and find a splinter that wouldn't stop bothering me. I'd been there. Until at some point the scent of past ashes faded again, and I realized I just kind of wanted to talk to her because it was a little enjoyable. A little. A lot. Damn it, I just really kind of enjoyed it. Talking to her felt weirdly like walking into my place after a long journey and finding everything familiar and comforting. I wanted to look into her damn eyes and hear the same voice everyone else heard when she spoke. When we went down to the planet together, I already knew where I stood, but I guess I was still lying to myself about it and hoping I'd believe the lie. Just, saying I still wasn't sure and that I didn't really like her all that much, even though it wasn't true. And I kind of wanted her to tell me she hated my guts and found me annoying so I could walk away and forget I'd ever noticed the flame that had ignited between us during all the bickering. Didn't quite work out that way when we got caught in the rain together and she reached out to me. Like, maybe she was just as unsure about me as I was about her, and something inside me softened, yearned to reach back. Then little broken shards of the past came tumbling out of my damn mouth when I wasn't even sure I wanted to show her all that yet. But there it was, pieces of the truth just lying in the mud between us as I watched a painful turmoil of emotions flicker through her eyes. I don't know why I told her, but I suppose if the past is like a graveyard of bones and regrets the future builds on itself on, then I guess Lane feels like she's from the same strata as I am. Centuries of baggage is built up on top of us both until our place in those events has become fossilized, and we just keep trying to dig our way back up to the surface for some air. So he's older, definitely older. And now I'm using analogies Noel or Daz would use, so I guess that's how much I've been assimilated into this group of interstellar weirdos. I let out a sigh and wrapped my hands around my cup, still staring outside at the long night. I guess at this point it's no use pretending anymore. Or holding back. The connection was there no matter how much I tried to ignore it. And well, I guess I did really like that dumbass with her silver eyes and the raspy voice she really only used when I was around. A bit. I liked her a bit. Couldn't hurt to maybe try to move forward without as much pretense. I downed the rest of my coffee and checked the time. Daz would be the only one awake now except the night staff on the bridge. Time to drag myself out of these annoying thoughts and go find him so I could make him entertain me for a while before I tried to sleep. Got up, cleaned up my mess like a good little crew member, and was sure to shut the light off when I left the galley. It wasn't so bad, I thought, to find an unexpected connection out here in the deep. It was cold and empty enough without us embracing the emptiness wholeheartedly until we froze to death in isolation. Sometimes a low flame was all you needed to keep yourself warm. And well, even ash could make the ground more fertile, I guess. Whether that analogy meant my life, my heart, or whatever the hell else, I didn't know. But perhaps it was time to allow for all the above. It had been a long time. Wasn't ready to throw myself into the fire yet, but I could warm my hands on that flame for a while anyway. Just for a while. Ooh. That's so interesting. Yes. Okay. So now we're gonna come here. And as you can see, I already did a new save for the Chapter 6 title card. So here we go, Shadows and Foreboding. After a stop at the Super Terran system, the next assignment flew past. That one had been another planetary survey, but this time from a distance. They had detected a developing species on one of the worlds, the third planet of a K-type orange dwarf. We learned only a little about them. Despite that, given their current technology level, they wouldn't have been able to detect us anyway. They had been either pre-industrial or right on the cusp. Still, no one wanted to stay well outside of a range where we'd potentially be spotted. We had left the system a day ago, and the crew was still discussing it. At any rate, I hope the guild at least marks them down to be checked on, especially considering the situation with their moons. They're not going to have to worry about the moons colliding for several thousand years, Laren. It poses no threat to the planet now. Of course, the Navigation Guild may make their way out here again anyway, who knows? They like to check on anything where we've left buoys to ward off other species, just to see how effective they are. He was referring to the strategy of setting up a series of small buoys on the outer planetary system to make it seem as if someone else had laid claim to the system. It was done in the hopes of keeping out any more advanced species until the cultures on that planet had time to evolve on their own. The UC's way of bringing light into the dark forest. Debating here. I'm kind of torn between this one and this one. I'm watching the sprite's expression change. Let's go suspicious. Look at that. Yeah, we'll stick with suspicious. I don't want to be suspicious of that, but something about it just seemed weird to me. I could grasp the general idea of warding off potentially grabby species by making it seem like someone else had been there first, but was it altruism or a veiled attempt to lay claim to more territory? I wasn't sure. Didn't even know that was standard protocol these days. Well, it's not a new thing, but I guess it happens sometime after you know, after I was put in timeout. Is that what you're calling it these days? Depends on the day and how good a mood I'm in. I see. I'm not sure whether timeout means you're in a good mood or a bad mood, but I'll go with it. I assume it was put in place after you're put in timeout, yes, but I don't know the exact date. It's been in place as long as I can remember, but well, I'm only 53 UC standard years. She looks good for 53 years. Looks like it was put into place about 327 years ago, proposed by a Trinian philanthropist who was working with the UC. I guess one of the founding philosophies of his people was that it was the duty of the strong to guard the weak. There was a whole debate about it, but they finally decided that by allowing loud species to drown out the others and inhibit their growth, it would cause stagnation of the galactic community. Huh. He was assassinated 4 years after the policy went into place, but it was determined to have been unrelated. Did you actually look all that up just now? Freeze glanced out from the data pad in his hand with a frown as Laren gave him an exasperated and amused smile. I mean, you two were wondering. I'm being helpful, Laren. I didn't say you weren't, I just don't think we wanted that much information. That's like me looking up stuff while I'm doing these streams, because I want to make sure of my facts. Starting the day with an assassination does seem like an ill omen. We didn't start the day with an assassination, I was just... It's early, Phrase. What are you shouting about already? Hi, Gates. I'm not... You know what? All of you are terrible. Honestly, it was just fun to tease. What are you three even doing up at this hour? Phrase couldn't sleep, unfortunately, which meant I couldn't sleep. I eventually suggested we just get up and come down to the galley for a warm drink. Insomnia or sleep talking again? You talk in your sleep? Yes, frequently, and by frequently I mean every time I sleep. It's the norm for a Relkite. Relkoa is a T-class super terror that has a thick atmosphere and powerful magnetic field. It has one small moon and orbits somewhat far from its parent star, which is a K-type orange dwarf. The Relkite are the sole dominant species on Relkoa. That's why Phrase has these. It's true, every single night. I've learned to sleep through most of it. Today he woke me up talking very loudly about Tinea pedis. Ugh. Perhaps of subconscious anxiety. We may need to consider a preemptive treatment regimen. Laren, please. And you, Lane? I assume Phrase's trouble with foot fungus didn't wake you up all the way over in the guest corridor. You know, Gates, I've noticed that you are always up early and wanting to know why anyone else is. What are you doing up at this hour? Avoiding talking about it? I like to get up early and lurk around on the comm channels out here. It's when the dark channels are most active. All the good stuff happens when the UC is asleep. Please, nothing you get off those channels is helpful, Gates. Oh, that's not true, and you know it. Besides, it's fun to watch. You need new hobbies and better sleep hygiene. My hobbies are amazing, and at least I don't wake anyone up with my fungus issues early in the morning. They devolved into good-natured bickering while I just listened in amusement. In the past, I had gravitated towards working on larger ships where I could blend in and fade into the background. I had only a short stint on a ship this small, and I had always felt like an outsider, always like I didn't belong. Existing on the fringes, just out of sync with the rest of the crew, just outside the tangled knot of paths that represented their relationships. That doesn't sound like anyone else, we know. The thing that was different about this ship was that the sense of being an outsider was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I felt like I was being wrapped in the middle of it all. It was a novel experience. I'd been here for, well, I guess if you get experience time, it was just over 3 weeks. In linear time, it was more than 4. Amazing how quickly the days passed. Oh, hey everyone, I thought it was noisy in here this morning. And there Daz was, awake as always. In fact, I was surprised he was just now joining us. Wonder where he's been. Didn't expect to find this many people here already. He grinned as he passed us on his way to the kitchen. Hope your feet are okay, Phrase. Ugh, stop! Looks like it's just one of those mornings. What have you been up to all night? Just wrapping up with the last of the Valayan manifest. Didn't you and Lane finish that 3 days ago? Yeah, but the secure storage was still a mess, so I found some spare time to reorganize it in Cargo 02. There are still Valayan crates there, but I stowed them out of sight. I also relocated some of the smaller Valayan items into our standard crates so that they don't stand out. I offered to help, but apparently I didn't adhere to a system close enough. Oh god, I can imagine. The purpose of the system is to be followed in an exact manner. Yeah, that's something my twin sister has brought up, is that she and my mom have very similar sensibilities when it comes to organizing stuff. I do not. And now Cargo 2 is all nice and tidy again with everything dangerous packed away. and I just rechecked the list to make sure that everything is listed in the correct location. I have to say that I've been disappointed that you haven't got that toaster working. I feel like I was promised high-tech toasts. I promised nothing. I'm still disappointed you actually launched that stasis cube into a star. I know you were feeling a little spite. Ow, Laren! I snickered as I pinched him hard when he was seconds away from calling out my vindictiveness. So anyway, how are those data prisms going? I've identified most of them, at least in a general sense. There weren't just scientific things, but that was by far the bulk of them. How's the translation of the nav charts going? Going great. After we made some corrections, the translator has been managing the decilin pretty well. Now it's just an issue of the sheer amount of information in them. It'll take weeks to get through them all. It's been great for me learning decilin though, which wouldn't benefit you even if you knocked on Valea's front door and said hello, since no one really speaks it. Then teach me Aswanian. I taught you a little. You taught me how to say fuck and some other profanity. Of course we did. I don't know how many people, like, one of the first things they want to learn in a new language is how to curse in it. Like, there's a character in The Witcher, I don't know if this is a fanon thing or if it's really canon, but he learns new languages so he can curse in them. Those are the important words. Yep. Lane, those are not the important words. So, we're reaching that protoplanetary disk today. How long do you think we'll spend up there? Snowline. The snowline, which is also called the frost line, and a boundary which marks the minimum distance from a young star, where the temperature is low enough that compounds such as water, methane, and carbon dioxide can form ice. This boundary is an important aspect of early planetary development. Can't be more than a day. Even from out here, we could tell it's way more volatile than we thought when it was first detected. I doubt we'll even be able to get in that close. Ah, quite a group this morning. How are you all doing? Hope everyone had a pleasant sleep. Then again, you're all up bright and early, so maybe not. It was good enough. I slept fine, just in case you were wondering. You always do. By the way, Lane, you should come up to the bridge during our survey later, since you have nothing else on your schedule. You didn't get to help out much with the last assignment. It'll be good for you to come up, learn the bridge controls. No offense, but am I the only one that remembers what happened the last time Lane observed us work while near a volatile stellar phenomenon? Phrase! I sipped my tea loudly as Laren pinched him again. How do you sip tea loudly? I guess you can slurp very loudly. Come on, Phrase, you can't pin that one on Lane, especially considering she got us out of that mess. Ow! I'm just saying, ow! I wondered how many times it would take for him to give up. I like what... Hi! Hi, saying? Yes, sipping tea. Loudly. I love that Laren does not hesitate to call him out. The others were starting to filter in by that point, though none of them paid any mind to Phrase and Laren. You missed Cav's bonusing, though I'm assuming you're playing all this yourself. So we got some hints as to Cav's backstory. Yay! I don't remember if I read this, so I'm going to read it again. My apologies if I'm reading this twice. The others were starting to filter in by that point, though none of them paid any mind to Phrase and Laren. Sim. I'm going to go with Sim and Kato were first, both still looking groggy. They weren't morning people by their own admission. Sim apparently had a bad habit of staying up late and being difficult in the mornings. Cav surprisingly came in behind them. He gave me that usual smirk on his way to get coffee. He had been showing up more in the evenings or popping up during the day while I was working, just to talk, to tease. After the planetary survey, I felt like we were in a bit of a weird place, but I could tell we were getting closer, even if we hadn't dropped those walls yet. Even so, Cav had slid into a seat at my table, and we were enjoying a quick breakfast while everyone caught up. Oh, you won't be able to play? I'm sorry. Well, the VOD will be available on Twitch, and then it's going to get uploaded to YouTube so you can watch there. Or you can wait until you can get your laptop situation sorted out. So, how are the dark channels this morning? Hush. Same as always, nothing too dramatic to report. Oh yeah, how'd that thing go? That Valayan expedition something circle? You mentioned it last time. Lysippus circle? That's the one. Do you even recognize that word, by the way? Is that really a Valayan thing? Not that I know of, but I mean, I only speak 4 languages, so who knows? Can't rule it out, I guess. You only speak 4. It's not a lot when you consider how many there are, and that Lysippus could be a word in any of them, or none of them. I suppose so. Well, anyway, it's gone quiet, so I guess there were no takers. Or there were, and they've decided to be hush-hush about what they're planning. I mean, that's fair. I wouldn't sign up for it either. You should. If you ever get bored hanging out with us, you should absolutely join one of these groups. Mind you, I'm not saying you should lead them anywhere useful. Just watch them flounder around in the deep, chasing shadows. That is so mean. I love that. He's a little shit. I guarantee you there are half a dozen Valayan loners doing that exact thing as we speak. Were you one of them? It's what I'd do if I was Valayan. Really? I can see that. Somehow I'm not surprised. Yeah, I can see Cab being a little shit like that. If he really is Valayan. We don't know yet. There's hints, but nothing concrete. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. As long as there's nothing bad on the Dark Channels, I don't care much about people and their odd expeditions. Best of luck to them, whatever they do. Apart from that, it's just the same old rumors and gossip. Good to know. And with that, I'm heading up to the bridge, I think. We'll be in range of the target soon enough, so I'll see you all up there in a little while. I suppose I ought to head to the lab if everyone else is going to work. He stood and grinned down at me. Have fun up there looking at space dust. And try not to get into trouble this time, Ilbanalo. I always try to stay out of trouble. Then why are you so terribly bad at it? I don't know, actually. If you figure it out, let me know. I haven't figured it out up to this point in my life. I doubt I'm going to figure it out today. Gave me a knowing smirk on his way out, and I stood to take my things to the kitchen area before heading up to the bridge. Everyone was all business as we got up there. This time I wasn't just lurking. I was at one of the stations near Daz and Frey's, even though they surely didn't need me there. But it was nice to be more than an observer this time. Asher is just a small foal, right to the edge of the disk. Rafe said the companion chamber can handle that much, but no closer. Not a problem. We'll keep our distance, stay well away from the gravitational turbulence. Yep, I'm on it. Asher's voice went hollow as he counted down to activation. The hum of the companion chamber filled the room, and there was a flash of white outside. It was over in an instant. We were just over 15 SAU from the star, Noel. The term astronomical unit is a useful measurement when inside a planetary system. It generally is a measurement from the star to a specific location in the system. In the Sol system, it is a measurement from the Sun to Earth, 150 million kilometers. SAU, or Standard Astronomical Unit, is a standardized version of this measurement. Sounds good. We'll hold position here. He's obviously already and standing just behind Asher's chair. Grace, Daz, anything interesting out there? About what you'd expect from a binary system with 2 red dwarfs orbiting at that proximity to each other. The star system is highly active. Those radiation bursts are off the chart. It looks like there are some terrestrial protoplanets forming just inside the snow line, but Grace is correct. The radiation flares are intense. Probably a bit much even for you. No kidding. Even Esalen don't get dosed with radiation this high. I shot him a curious look and he shrugged. Esalen also orbits a red dwarf. Radiation is higher than a lot of worlds. Q and Sezu are both used to much higher levels of radiation than a lot of species. Red dwarf stars are the most abundant star in the galaxy. They are also the smallest and coolest stars and have a much longer lifespan than their larger yellow and orange dwarf cousins. However, they are known to be highly unstable and volatile, releasing large amounts of radiation with frequent and powerful flares. The Sezu more so, since the day side always faces the star. I see. I wasn't aware of that. Well, a lot of red dwarfs out there, not all of them, can support life though. Unless these two calm down quite a lot, they won't either. I'd find a crisp right away. Relkid are way more susceptible to radiation. I admit I don't know much about Relkoa. It has a pretty thick magnetosphere, so we're not well adapted to radiation exposure, the exact opposite of Daz. Alright, well, while we're here, let's get all the info we can and log this one away. We have the MPs running non-stop, Noel. Not much else we can do, but wait. Noel turned and grinned at me. And on the topic of plants we know very little about, I admit I'm a bit curious about Balea. Nothing is known about it. Hang on. I'm gonna roll a dice to make my choice here. There we go. I like my dice bag. It's got a dragon around the top, which is made close by a drawstring, so it's basically a dragon's hoard of dice. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. It's pretty unremarkable. It is pretty unremarkable as far as plants go. It's a Terran world that orbits a G-type star just under the requirements to be a super Terra. Okay. Sorry, I just noticed something. Sorry, I got a notification on Discord. Okay. It has 3 moons, one of which is artificial. An artificial moon? A Death Star! Sorry. That's right, a whole artificial moon, though all 3 are inhabited, or, well, were. It's mostly water, about 60%, and otherwise it's about what you'd expect, I guess. So that's just over 2/3 water. Because the way I look at it, 33% is 1/3, 66% is 2/3, so 68% is just over 2/3. As I said, very unremarkable. It has an artificial moon! It's inside a dimensional sphere. Neither of those is about Balea itself, I'm just talking about the planet. Well, I guess that makes sense. Most of what's interesting about Balea is more about its people and the things they built. It's true, the planet is just a normal planet. I guess that's frequently the case. Planets are space rocks. Cultures, on the other hand. That artificial moon, though. Is he gonna be stuck on that for a while? I didn't tell them the artificial moon was where the intergalactic wormhole was situated. Allegedly. I had a feeling that would spark another huge discussion. The rest of our time near the protoplanetary disk was pretty standard, just scans and observations. We only had to stay long enough to gather the required info, part of which was just info showing it wasn't a good idea to stay long. They let me oversee the scans and learn where everything was located at Daz's station. Noel eventually had Asher back us away, then do a short pull from the system, and with that, the last assignment for this trip was over. It's time to go back. From here, we'll head to the closest meridian and get ourselves... Noel, another ship just came out of the fold within range of the MBs. How far? It's only about 70,000 kilometers from our current location. It appears to have a UC signature, specifically, I think it's a Nexus survey ship. All the way out here? It looks like they've taken some damage. I'm not sure what happened. Oh boy. Do they need assistance? I've tried reaching out, but no response yet. They are heading our way, so it looks like they've noticed us. Maybe their comms are damaged? Alright, let's move towards them, Asher. Slowly. Gates, keep trying to get a response. Of course, I think I may be picking something up from them. There's a lot of interference. Another UC ship, all the way out here. I could listen in on the thoughts of the crew, even from this distance, and get information on what was going on, but I wouldn't offer that just yet. I didn't like invading people's privacy, and we weren't to the point that it was needed. Death was curious, though. Looks like the comms may be damaged a bit. I think we just got in their current range. We just received the ensign, though it's a bit scrambled. Can still make out the information, though. They're the NEX Aglaya, a Nexus survey ship, as we thought. They're saying they were damaged when they came out of the fold in some kind of gravitational cyclone. It's hard to tell for sure, but I believe they're hoping they can help with repairs. What kind of damages other than to comms? They haven't said yet. Confirmed comms are damaged with limited range. It's clearing up the closer we get. Alright, send our insignia and confirm we're willing to help. Asher, get as close as you can. I want to talk to whoever's in command over there and get more information. No problem. Looks like we're going to have a bit of a side mission here before we head back. I frowned at the screen where the ship was only visible because Asher had magnified the picture. You could go months without running to another ship from the UC out here. I honestly didn't think we'd come across anyone until we got to Aether Station. This was unexpected. Huh. I don't know. My gut reaction is apprehensive. So we're gonna go with that. And I somehow felt apprehensive. I couldn't say why. Perhaps just that I grow nice and cozy on this very small ship with this very kind crew isolated in deep space. Of course, we've been talking a lot about heading back in, but that had been in a few weeks or in a few days. Always at some indeterminate and future point. And now there were other people and the possibility of interacting with them was right in front of me. Unexpected. Odd. I took a breath. But in the end, it wasn't my job to greet anyone, and I may not interact with them at all. With others busy now, I retreated from Dow's station and then slipped off the bridge to let them handle it. I'd only been up there to help with studying the protoplanetary disk, and we were finished with that. If they needed me for anything else, which I doubted, they'd let me know. Whatever happened, I was sure Noel would be briefing the crew on it soon enough. Noel was still in a meeting with the other ship's captain over an hour later, a surprisingly long time and beyond my initial expectations. I was certain they were just asking for repairs, but I suppose that discussing a reasonable schedule could take a while, especially when we didn't know how extensive the damage to their ship was. And since Noel was unlikely to want any major delays to getting ourselves back to space dock. I made my way to the mess hall to have tea or just pace around waiting while I had nothing else to do. And eventually Cav joined me there, to my surprise. I suppose I wasn't the only one restless as we waited to find out what was going to happen, though it surprised me that he, of all people, might be. Then again, maybe he just wanted a break from being the errand boy. I didn't quite dare to think he'd come looking for me because he wanted to see me. But that was a possibility too, of course. Okay, we're gonna save that, because I don't know what... We'd seated ourselves at a table and were talking as we waited for an update. Well, whether he likes it or not, I reckon our trip back to the inflows is going to get delayed by a couple of days, at least, if not longer. You think so? The damage on the Aglaya didn't seem that severe. Of course, that was just on the outside, and I only caught a glimpse. Probably internal systems got the worst of it. I bet that's what they're having issues with repair-wise. A small survey ship like that won't have a big crew either, smaller than us, so widespread minor damage could still take a few days, even with the additional personnel. And of course, Noel would never say no to a request for help, not that he should say no, but even if it delayed us by 2 weeks, he'd help. That seems like him. It does. Still, interesting to encounter another UC ship, not exactly commonplace this far out. Chance encounter that doesn't necessarily feel like chance. You don't believe in happenstance or chance, do you? I don't. Not the way most people mean it when they say chance. But regardless of what you believe, fate or fortune served them well. I'm sure their captain will breathe easier with us here to give them a hand. No doubt, even if they could handle the repairs alone, having a watchdog nearby is surely useful. And it's not a bad thing for us to meet someone else out here, too. I'm sure Noel is fishing for any updates about the inflows. They've undoubtedly been near there more recently than we have, so if there are any major developments, maybe they know of them. Has Gates not been monitoring the dark channels for that? The outflows aren't really the same as the inflows. It's closer than anywhere we've been recently. And you know the dark channels aren't the same, not if you want accurate news and not just rumors. Rumors. There we go. I can talk. But will there be any major news in the amount of time that Ophelia's been out here? It used to not be that bad. Well, you never know. Anything's possible and things change fast out here these days. A lot stays the same in 500 years. And a lot changes. So, Ildenalo, are you looking forward to meeting other people or are you planning to keep your head down? Are you going to offer some sage advice for me to follow like usual or just tease me this time? Well, sage as my advice may be, I expect you can decide this one on your own. Teasing though, I'm always up for. This time I am pretty curious what you're thinking though. I haven't planned on hiding myself if that's what you mean. That wasn't exactly what I mean, no. I don't expect you to hide in the ventilation shafts until we part ways. I don't know if we could fit in the ventilation shafts. I just thought you might be nervous. Nervous? You're not? Not really nervous, no. I'm surprised something like that had you concerned. Worried I might be a little rusty on the social interaction after all this time, which doesn't feel like 500 years to me. I'm not worried you're rusty. I'm worried that things are different and you don't know how different they are yet. I've lived through the change, seen how people have gradually forgotten. So, And I suppose I have an appreciation of how people might respond if they work out the truth. I sighed him for a moment. You've lived through the entire change? I had wondered how long his people lived. He hadn't come out and said it, but I did get the feeling he had seen the Vim Aradio firsthand. And now, I've seen enough of it. How much exactly? Enough of it. And it was a cryptic response, as always. I know you're used to hiding, but you're also used to it not being world-shattering for people to learn the truth. Not in the way it would be now. When you told everyone here, you knew it would be a big deal, but you trusted it would be that big a deal. In some ways, you were merely lucky it was this crew you were dealing with. In other situations, you would have had to make an escape if possible. Being Valayan is at once less consequential than it was, and more than it was. So you recommend that I do hide? Because I'm not opposed to it, and I'm not sure I want to meet these people anyway. I wasn't going to volunteer to be on the repair teams if that was your worry. I may still be unaware of exactly what it means in the grand scheme of things for me to be Valayan, but you're right, I'm used to hiding. And even back then, it was not as easy to hide when you were up close and personal with people. That much, I'm sure, has not changed. It'll be different on Aether Station or Palmyra. You'll be a face in the crowd and no one will pay attention to you. But not out here. Not this time. Until you're more informed, I think it'll be good to ease into intimate interactions. I'm not planning on getting intimate with any of these people, Cav. Things get pretty intimate in those maintenance shafts when you're crammed in elbow to elbow during repairs is what I mean, whether you like it or not. I guess that's fair. I suppose that Noel would rather avoid questions about who I am as well. We never got around to settling on a solid story. And somehow it is true that no matter how normal I try to act, I always get questions. That, Ildenalo, is because you're a little troublemaker. Oh, is that what that particular nickname means? Cav smirked, but didn't answer, which made me suspect I was right. I can't believe Noel hasn't had you concoct a story about how we picked you up yet. It's come up once or twice, but we always managed to get sidetracked. I imagine he would have wanted to say we just picked you up at Aether Station or something, but that may be difficult now. For a trouble magnet like you, surely someone would overcome the odds and spot the inconsistencies if we dare try that story. Especially when there's some stray ship out there that has a record of you being here before we get to Aether Station. Ugh, I hate admitting it, but you're right. As we were sitting there, Noel came over the ship comms. Rafe, Uran, and Sim, come up to the bridge. Looks like we're going to have some company for the next couple of days. We have a repair schedule to discuss. There it is. Guess they're done with their chat. Sounds like it. Well, he didn't call you up, so there's that. Didn't expect him to. I figured that we still have some things to work on from the dimensional loop, so maybe I'll just focus on those while Daz is busy with the other ship. That's what I was going to suggest, but I imagine Noel's already thought of it. Probably a decent excuse for keeping you off repair rotations. Cav stood up and stretched, reaching for his empty cup. I promised Ruby I'd return in half an hour or so I should head back down to the lab. Cav, you've been here almost an hour. He grinned as I yanked his mug away from him and shooed him out the door. You're incorrigible, and I have no idea how Shrubby puts up with you. Uh-huh. Well, considering you can't get enough of me either. That is not. He shrugged and vanished into the hall before I could finish. I rolled my eyes and returned his mug to the kitchen. For a moment I stood there looking out one of the long windows. I doubted I'd be able to stay completely out of sight for the next few days, not that crew members were going back and forth for supplies, which I imagined they would be. Well, I didn't want to assume. I'd have to talk to Noel about what he thought later on when he had a free moment. For now, I need to find something to do with myself for the rest of the day, though. The rest could be handled later. I don't think I've been to medical since my final checkup with Laren. It was a little strange going back for work the day after the Ophelia had come across the Glaya near the planetary disk. I had confirmed with Noel that I'd be working on the outstanding repairs on the Ophelia and not helping with everything else. That had been keeping me busy and away from their crew for the most part. They'd had some meals over here due to damages on their ship, so I hadn't avoided seeing them entirely, but we hadn't interacted much. So when I entered medical and found Laren with someone I didn't recognize, I wasn't certain if it was one of theirs or just a lab gremlin I hadn't met before. Not until I saw the insignia on their shoulder. Hey, Lane, sorry to bother you when I know you're busy. The light I reported is in the left terrarium. Dan might have tried to fix it, but he's over on the Glaya helping out. No problem. This is my job. That flickering has to be driving you mad. More like giving me a headache. I'll get it repaired as soon as possible. I nodded to their patient and went to the terrarium, setting my toolkit down as I lifted off the side panel and started to attempt a diagnosis of the problem. Thank you for taking the time to do this, Doctor. With the damage to our infirmary, regenerating broken bones over there is out of the question. Based on what you told me, it's fortunate you ended up with just a broken arm. I was only half listening to the conversation as I worked. From what they were saying, not only was the infirmary damaged, but one of the injured people that needed treatment was their medical assistant. Seems like they had it pretty rough. Sure sounds like it. It did explain why they hadn't been able to handle their repairs on their own. After a moment of examining the flickering light, I found a power flow issue that was likely the culprit. So it wasn't the light itself. I set my toolkit aside and went to Laren's desk so I could check the entire environmental system and medical to make sure it wasn't a bigger problem than one faulty terrarium. Laren, is it alright if I borrowed your display here? Sure, I'm not working on anything significant. I cleared a small area on the desk, pushed a few things to the side so I could lean over the interface and pulled up the environmental systems information. It didn't hit me what one of those items was until Laren's patient spoke, having glanced over my way. What's that thing? I glanced in the direction they were staring. I realized it was one of the modified Valayan tools I'd been trying to get Laren to use. It had been left on the desk, and I hadn't even realized it was there when I moved everything. Is that a medical instrument? I've never seen anything like that before. Oops, looks like we may have been a little careless. I hadn't even thought to make sure Laren had stowed this thing. Without missing a beat, I picked it up and slipped it into my pocket with a smile. It's mine, actually. I must have left it in the last time I was here. I don't recognize that technology. Oh, I don't know where it's from either. I picked it up on my travels. The person I borrowed it from also didn't recognize it. They had only worked out what it does through trial and error. Laren, to their credit, was playing pretty cool as I lied through my teeth to this poor person. Whew, boy. They'd just gone back to working on regenerating the bone in that broken arm. Then what is it? Soft tissue regenerator. I mean, that's what the person I got it from called it, since that's what it does. I have no idea what it's actually called. That was not all it did, but yeah. Back when I was traveling around on my own, I picked up a lot of little gadgets like this one along the way. You can find some odd stuff in the right outposts. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that in your deep space surveys, too. Tell me about it. Anyway, I guess I left it here when I was showing it to Laren before. Sorry, Laren. It's not a problem. Sounds like you haven't been here long. Is that how it sounds? Oh, ha. I didn't mean to pry or anything. To be honest, on our last trip out, we picked up a random new crew member, too. Funny how often that happens out here. It's happened here numerous times as well. They're not always galactic travelers, though. You sound like you got around before you landed here. I think we all do. Some of us on our own, and some of us as part of a crew like this. Well, I guess you're right about that. Treatment is done. You still need to get the arm about 6 hours before you do anything strenuous. The bone will continue to heal for about that long, so keep it immobile until then. Thanks, it already feels a lot better. I really appreciate it. Too bad I didn't get to see the soft tissue regenerator in action. It's never unfortunate when a doctor doesn't have to use a specialized tool to heal an injury. There we go. Haha, that's exactly what Dr. Vrorian would say. Well, most of us are similar, no matter our background. Alright, see ya, Doc. They hopped off the table and nodded to us both before they waved and left. I sighed a little when they went back to finish up with verifying the terrarium readouts. I took the medical device out of my pocket and held it out to Laren. Sorry about that, I forgot I'd left it out while testing it earlier. No worries, I don't think there was any harm done. No, but I didn't want to make you lie about your past to people. No one is harmed by a little white lie about something like that. It goes with the territory sometimes. Often, in fact. And I think your light's fixed now as well as the underlying problem. Thanks. This is actually what I was thinking about that when Blair was talking about lying about their past. It really isn't a lie when you think about it. When you think about it, what I said wasn't even a lie. I did leave this here after showing it to you, and I did randomly acquire it from an alien in a strange place. Technically. Yeah, that technicality is doing a lot of work in that explanation lane. It's like that sometimes, so you don't have to look so concerned. One strange-looking medical device is not enough to prove my space wizard heritage. And even if it was, that little secret occupies a strange space where I try to keep it quiet out of convenience, but it's not the end of the universe if someone finds out. I don't want everyone else to feel burdened by the idea of having to keep this secret from me either. It's going to come out to someone eventually. So don't feel guilty over something as innocuous as leaving that thing out on your desk. It was still irresponsible of me. I think it's going to be fine. That person wasn't even suspicious, just curious. Alright, if you say so. I do say so, actually. Remember, I can tell. And I'll take your word for it. And thanks for coming by to take care of that damn light. Not a problem. Like I said, it's my job. They gave my arm a squeeze before I went back to get my toolkit and head out. The fact that someone had seen that medical device wasn't ideal, but I meant it when I told Larry I didn't think it was a huge problem either. I should have reminded them to stow the tools I'd been trying out in any case. They hadn't even wanted to try them. They'd done it because I insisted. But I was certain Noel would appreciate prudence for the remainder of the time we were working with the other ship. It was a good reminder, though. It just took one little slip and people did notice things that were out of the ordinary. Anyway, now that I had one minor repair under my belt, on to the next one on the list. It had been nearly 2 days of the ships traveling side by side while the Ophelia's crew helped with repairs, after the first day we met. It wasn't just that there was a lot of minor damage to repair, unfortunately. The Goliath's power generators were impacted by that cyclone they encountered. They were having power drain issues that left most of their systems affected. With multiple critical areas that needed repairs as well, it was a lot of work. I had still been keeping outside as much as possible, especially after the incident in the infirmary, so you could barely even call it an incident. I still thought it might be best to avoid any more conversations with strangers so I didn't have to dodge talking about where I was from. It looked like the teams had wrapped up work and were getting ready to part ways anyhow, so it wouldn't be necessary to try to hide anymore anyway. The repairs weren't complete, but with our help they were able to get most of the systems back up to their optimal levels. Well, I said our help. It wasn't like I'd personally done anything. I'd stayed on the Ophelia and worked on our own repair manifest, just as we'd said. I was currently heading to the lodge for a sort of farewell party since I thought it would be conspicuous if I didn't show up at all. I hadn't helped with the repairs, but I still seen the other crew around here and there. They knew I was involved with ops on the Ophelia. I wouldn't stay long. I couldn't imagine it would be fun to be in a noisy room trying to whisper shout over the noise anyway. Everyone was supposed to be gathering in the rec room, so when I sensed someone unfamiliar as I approached Cargo 2, it gave me a pause. I slowed my steps as I focused on them, and when I rounded the corner, I only caught a glimpse of an unfamiliar form disappearing inside. suspended my consciousness just enough to get a clear look at who it was, and it was certainly one of the crew members from the Eclaya. Uh-oh. See him coming and going between the ships. Daz and I had moved the belaying iron, so there was nothing there that could get them into trouble, but that still didn't mean Noel would appreciate a stranger snooping. What was he doing anyway? When I reached the door moments later, I found the man standing in the room looking at some of the crates, his back to me. Let's go with a random noise. I watched him for a moment as he approached the belaying table. We still hadn't moved. He ran his hand over the surface of the table. What in the world? I didn't sense anything nefarious from him, though it would have had to have been very surface level for me to. Still, most people did wear their emotions quite shallow in their minds. He was curious, but searching for something. Unsure. Suspicious. But of what? I retreated silently for a moment, stepping just outside and into the corridor, deciding to go for an indirect confrontation instead of a more direct one. I kicked the edge of the wall pretty hard and let out as loud a yelp as I could. Which, let's face it, was not loud. But it was loud enough. I heard scrambling inside the hold as I let out a few hasty curses and bent over, attacked as if I just hurt my foot. The man's unfamiliar face popped out, and surprise and guilt on his face. He looks a little like Fraze. Pretending to be startled at the sight of him. Hello? Are you okay? I think I'm lost. A blatant lie. I gave him an unassuming smile. Oh, hi there. I'm fine, just managed to kick one of these damn uneven borders. I always trip over the stupid things. You sure you're alright? Let me help you up. It's fine, I just wasn't paying attention to where I was walking. Hello, sir, right? He is cute. Bae. Straightened on my own, flexing my ankle as if testing out where I'd heard it. Are you heading to the rec room area for the get-together? You didn't quite make it, but you're on the right track. Yeah, I got turned around at some point, I think. Can you show me the way? Of course, no problem. I was just heading there myself. Despite my curiosity, I decided to leave it there and not question him further. I didn't think he was up to anything bad. Maybe just curious about our cargo? Daz, I knew, had mentioned that the crew had found artifacts of unspecified origin on a dark world. But as far as I was aware, he'd only referenced the non-Valayan items and hadn't said anything about finding technology of any kind. Still, the right person could have been curious enough about that to poke around. There was no value in me making accusations, though. I motioned for the man to follow me, taking care to limp a little to be extra believable. I was nothing if not committed to the bet. So I'm Basil, by the way. I don't think I caught your name. You can call me Lane. It's nice to meet you. Daz mentioned you a couple of times. I think he said you work in ops too. I do. Same. I'm surprised we didn't meet before this. If I recall, Daz said they kept you working on some repairs over here. Yeah, we have a backlog, unfortunately, so we decided I'd keep working on that while the others helped your ship. You don't look Terran. Is it okay to ask where you're from? I might not have thought much about that question if he'd been a little better at hiding his emotions. But there was something lurking behind it, something more than simple curiosity. It gave me pause before I answered. He was suspicious. I'm certain he was, but about what? He had no reason to be. And I didn't think I could find out exactly what sparked that odd emotion without scanning his mind, something I refused to do on principle. What in the world? A feeling of disquiet settled over me as the atmosphere between us shifted. I'm from Laertes, and I am part Terran. Huh, same. The other part's Relkite. I believe your first officer's from Relkoa too? Ha! I was right! Woohoo! It does explain why his marking's a little different, though it could just be that there naturally is some differences in those markings. Yes, I thought I recognized the emotion to the facial markings, which were similar to the ones Frey sported. I could feel Basil wanted to ask more about me, but not being sure how he could do it. He knew he'd sound suspicious. That part he was projecting. It was odd, though. There's really only one reason someone would be fishing about who I was, and it didn't make sense that he'd have known enough about me to fish. Something about this interaction felt off. The disquiet was growing stronger. I was relieved when we reached the rec room and I motioned him in. Here we are. Thank you for guiding me here. No problem. I watched him leave, the false smile fading as soon as his back was turned. He was doubtful of me, suspicious. I didn't know why, so now I was suspicious of him. What an annoying cycle. For a moment, I lingered by the door before I decided to use further into the room before someone noticed me lurking there with a frown on my face. I should probably not run to tell Noel what happened right away. I didn't want to cause a problem now, since something minor could well blow up into something major. So for the time being, I just act like it wasn't a big deal. I could tell Noel later. Not yet, though. I would just do my best to not make a big deal of it. I would keep to myself and just watch things for a bit. Only for a bit, though, because it felt a little awkward to stay, and I didn't really want to engage with Basil, or anyone from his crew. That's why I decided to go find someone I did want to engage with. Someone who would never show up for a function like this. After less than half an hour, I slipped out of the rec room and headed down to the lab in search of Cav. I didn't know if I'd find him working or sleeping, but admittedly I'd never actually seen Cav working. So after some looking, I found him and stood for a moment peeking in at him before slipping inside the lab. And he was working, to my surprise, organizing what looked like data slides of some kind. He didn't look up as I entered. Thought he would have been at that farewell get-together or whatever it was. I stopped in. How would you know it was me? He paused and glanced up at me, eyebrow lifting as he studied my face. What's wrong? Wow, I'm that obvious. Your expressions are surprisingly unguarded sometimes. You weren't even looking at me. Extends to your tone of voice. Guess I've just grown comfortable here then. What happened? I don't know. I didn't come down here to bother you with that. He set down what he was doing and leaned against his workstation, giving me a slight smile. Bother me with it anyway. Aww. I had a weird encounter with one of the Gaia crew members, and it's been bugging me a little. That's all. When my gaze dropped to the floor, I almost laughed. Shaking my head, I went to where he was. Laren would have a fit. They knew you were wearing those shoes in here. He grinned and shrugged, then nodded to the spot next to him. Tell me about this encounter that has you on edge. It's probably going to sound like nothing. I just found one of the crew members in cargo, too. He was looking around, not doing anything nefarious, but, you know. I didn't confront him and just played it off like he was lost. Then I walked him down to the farewell party, and we kind of left it at that. So you found someone snooping. Is that all that happened? He just asked about my heritage, which I know is not that strange. It's just, I know what people are like when they are suspicious rather than curious, and he was suspicious. Which begs the question, why? He shouldn't have any reason to be suspicious of you, though. I know that, but the thing is, he was, and I'm confident he was. Why so confident? Did you have a peek at his thoughts to double check? No, because I don't do that, and also, if I did, I would probably also know what sparked the suspicion. Alright, fair enough, so how did you know? I mean, most people project enough of their surface thoughts naturally that I can get a general feel for their intent, even if it's not specific. You're the only one that doesn't. Huh, I see. So it's just radiating suspicious vibes at you? More or less, and then I started thinking about Gates and the things he's heard on the Dark Channels of late. There have been some things about Valayans, you know? Don't know why any of that would result in him being suspicious of you, even if this cargo guy is somehow up to date on Dark Channel gossip. Me either, but I don't know what else would have caught his attention. We barely spoke before he was giving me that creepy side-eye people give me when they suspect. Maybe there's some rumor we missed. Nola and I were both a bit wary of my identity and the nature of the cargo having been broadcast to Palmyra in the first place. Chances someone noticed that. I know. Still, it doesn't change that the guy definitely had that look in his eyes and those vibes in his thoughts. One of their crew members saw a Valayan medical device in the infirmary when Laren was treating them. I was doing a repair and just said it was something I'd picked up on my travels to cover for it. Strangely, that person didn't seem suspicious at all, and even if this Basil guy heard about it, I still don't know why that would trigger anything suspicious. It's just weird. It's not sitting right, you know? Huh, that is a little odd. I'll probably tell Noel about the snooping, but I didn't want to make a fuss considering they're about to leave anyway. At most, he'd lodge a complaint with the guild when we get back. I'm sure that even if Basil somehow realized I'm Valayan, nothing will come of it. I mean, first of all, it's just a guess, and also I can't imagine there are still bounties out for Valayans. It's just annoying to have someone poke at me when I was trying to be careful. Maybe jealous they don't have their own space wizard friend. Cab. Yeah, I'm sure that's it. Hey, wanna go for a walk or whatever? I didn't come down here to interrupt your work. You thought you'd show up and I'd just ignore you and keep working without so much as a hello? Okay, I did come to interrupt your work, but not necessarily abduct you. Not an abduction if I willingly submit myself to the temptation of your company. Aww. And it's not like I'm fixated on getting the stuff finished, I'm just idling away. Okay, not sure about that temptation bit, but I'm up for a walk in the garden if you want. He grinned and took my hand, leading me back out of the lab and leaving his work half finished. I followed mine, going back to the easel, no matter how much I tried to avoid thinking about it. I didn't know what this guy's angle was, but I knew he had one. And given everything else lately, that didn't make me happy. We saw the Glaya off without any further incidents. A little while after the farewell party ended, we all made our way to the bridge to watch their ship safely pull to wherever they were heading next. And then it was our turn to slide into the nearby meridian to travel to our next fold location a few hours away. Alright, well on to the next, I guess. What are we going to do about the raiders situation? Not much we can do about it, just keep an ear on the channels as we get closer in so we know the exact status. Even the Aglaya hasn't been in the middle regions for a few weeks, so who knows what the situation is like now. Apparently Captain Veda had said the situation was getting worse through the inflows. Not much we could do about it though, besides be extra cautious. Think they'll find out what they were looking for out here? Who knows? What do you think, Lane? I shrugged, leaning against one of the consoles as I stared outside. I've traveled a lot, but probably no more than the rest of you. No, I think you've traveled a little further than the rest of us. Maybe, but I've never heard anything specific about a planetary system with 6 stars circling each other. Though it's also not that uncommon, the fact that it has a habitable world makes it a little more unique. Sounds like they've been chasing these leads for a while, compiling information from other worlds, folklore, or old information found by the navigation and exploration guilds. It's interesting to learn that this isn't even the first deep space survey trying to find this place. I've never heard of it before. I guess if it's a guild project, we wouldn't have. I don't know. They seem convinced enough that there's an inactive bar gate out there somewhere that I would imagine there should be some rumors about it. Rumors or not, even if they find this thing, it doesn't mean they'll be able to jumpstart it. Maybe not, but that's a problem to solve once you find it. Even if it's just an aperture, it's a huge find. Honestly, they'd be better off just trying to find ways to stabilize the existing gates rather than chasing stories like this. I'd agree with you if chasing stories like this was all they were doing. You know they have teams of stabilization strategies trying to build an artificial gate openings into more stable parts of the system. Or just artificial wormholes entirely. It's not impossible. Might be a few years down the line for most of the species in the UCW, though. That is one of the reasons people search for Valea too, I guess. Even if they found the homeworld and could decipher its technology, it's not like the information being in the hands of one small guild would help everyone. To create a replacement Nexus, you'd need a massive framework in place. The undertaking to build something like that would take centuries. Longer. Oh, I don't disagree with you. It would also need the cooperation of hundreds of worlds. Thousands. I'm surprised some archaic species didn't do it. You'd think it would have been convenient. And with their technology, maybe not centuries of work. Plus, back then, with fewer spacefaring cultures to contend with, it would have been easier to place the gates where you wanted. I guess they never needed it. Once you can create wormholes where you want and ships that can traverse them, you don't need a gate system. I don't know. I still think a system of stationary wormholes would be useful to have, even as a precautionary measure. Maybe there is one. You never know. I doubt the species that made it would broadcast that it was there if they weren't inclined to share it. You'd think we would have detected an active wormhole system, or stumbled across it. Unless it's not active anymore. That's true, I guess. Man, that would be the find of a lifetime. Can you imagine? What really worries me is something Captain Veda called the Entente. She warned me pretty hard to watch out for them. Mentioned it right at the end before they left. Apparently we don't have the update yet, but they're connected to ID 73. Huh, the Entente? I think I've heard about that group on the Dark Shelf, but I don't remember anything specific. She said they're a significant threat, but not much is known about them. It seems they've been lurking around the inflows for a while now. Probably why we got a recent notice about ID 73 if they're connected. Shouldn't be too hard to look for them then. Well, she said that it's a group with multiple species involved, so it's possible we only have information on one of the ship types. ID 73 is just one of them. The Entente, huh. They're haunting the inflows specifically, and no one knows what they want? If they do, it's not public knowledge yet. She said a few of the guild surveys have encountered them in the depths, and it didn't go well. She warned us to watch our backs. We do that anyway. Fair enough, but I want you to keep an ear out for any more information. Gates out here and when we get close enough for some real updates. You got it. I stayed a while longer before retreating to let the others work. As I sat on one of the sofas with my arm draped over the side to watch the stars pass, I let out a soft sigh. From next to me, Cav shot a glance my way. You're thinking way too hard, as usual. You don't think I am? Then what's that sigh for? I just feeling like we've hit a turning point somehow. Finally heading home, finally putting this behind me and getting back to where everything else is. It's an odd feeling. That's how it goes. The galaxy keeps turning no matter what goes on in our little lives. It's not a bad thing, though. I didn't say it was. I didn't say you said it was. Then a soft chuckle at the look on my face and sat like that, watching the stars together for a long time, just enjoying the view and the company. Okay, that's it. Eee. Okay. There we go. Tidal forces. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. This is interesting. Things, from what the Ash has hinted, things are going to get really interesting in Chapter 7, and it's a big one, so it's going to be a nice, beefy update. Thank you for everyone for joining me. Yeah, I hope you get your laptop fixed soon so you can enjoy the rest of the content yourself. I'm planning to stream again on Sunday, and then I'm going back to work on Monday, so I'll be going back to one stream a week. Sunday I'll probably be going back to The War Within, because there's an update. There should be an update by now, or tomorrow. So there should be new content to do on Sunday for The War Within. So it was nice to actually get away from that for a bit and focus on other stuff. The pre-patch for Miss Pandaria Classic should be up soon, so I'll be doing that. So my plan is to basically do the pre-patch stuff, and then I'll create a Pandoran and do the Pandaran starting zone. But I am also planning to start streaming Changeling. I've had that for a while. I've had it on my back burner, and I want to play it. I want to understand what everyone else on the Discord for Steamberry Studios is talking about when they reference Changeling. And I've been avoiding the channel for Changeling because I haven't played it yet. So I want to play it so I can stop avoiding that channel. So everyone take care, drink water, eat food, take your meds, take a nap, go to the bathroom, take a shower. Whatever you need to do to self-care, do it. Stay cool if it's hot, stay warm if it's cold, and I'll see you next time. Bye!